The origin of humankind, a Buddhist perspective compared with science and theistic religions. From ancient times, the question, where do we come from and where will we go, has always troubled humanity. Beneath the vast starry sky, human beings are small, yet we can think, create, love, and also cause suffering. This gives rise to the longing to understand our origin. It is not only the story of a short lifetime, but also a question about the existence of the whole human species on this earth. In antiquity, when people gazed at the night sky and saw the moonlight on the ground, heard thunder, wind, and rain, and witnessed volcanoes, they conceived of a supernatural power behind everything. Thus, creation stories were born. In the Bible, humanity begins with Adam and Eve, formed by God from clay and brought to life by his breath. In India, Vedic myths tell that humankind was born from the body of a cosmic deity. The ancient Chinese believed that Nuwa molded human beings from yellow clay by the Yellow River. And in many other cultures, we encounter the image of an omnipotent creator or a benevolent mother goddess bestowing form and life upon humankind. Though mythic in color, these stories still have a certain value. They gave people faith and comfort in days overshadowed by fear of harsh nature. But as human society developed and knowledge expanded, those mythical stories no longer sufficed to satisfy an intellect seeking truth. In the 19th century, Darwin proposed the theory of evolution, asserting that humans were not created by a deity, but evolved from primates through millions of years of natural selection. This discovery was like an earthquake, overturning traditional views and laying the foundation for modern science. Yet, even with extraordinary scientific progress, the question, where do we come from, has not been fully answered. Evolution may explain part of how our species formed, but it has not reached the essence of consciousness, the very thing that most distinguishes humans from other beings. If we rely only on genes and cells, a human is merely an aggregate of matter. But what causes that aggregate to laugh, to cry, to love, to sacrifice? More than 2,600 years ago, the Buddha was also asked about the origin of humankind. In the Koyi the Nan Bon Discourse, Ajna Sutta, of the Daya Nikaya, he told a story quite different from creation myths. The Buddha said that when the world undergoes a cycle of dissolution and reformation, beings from the radiant realm descend and live on the newly formed earth. At first, they have bodies of light, fly through the air, need no food, live long lives, and have no distinction of male and female. But when craving arises, they begin to partake of a fragrant substance that appears on the earth's surface. Their bodies become coarse and heavy, their natural radiance disappears, and the sun and moon appear. Gradually, distinctions of gender, sensual desire, envy, possession, and agriculture arise, and people have to elect a king to maintain order. This account is, of course, not a scientific history, but a symbolic teaching. The Buddha wanted to show us the nature of humankind, originally pure, gradually degenerating because of craving. Society, class, and law are all established by humans rather than bestowed by a deity. The root of the formation of humanity lies not in clay nor solely in genetic inheritance, but in mind and karma. If science seeks origins through fossils and genes, Buddhism looks into the stream of consciousness and karmic force. Every living being existing in this life is not here by chance, but as the result of countless conditions from the past. Humans are reborn through many lifetimes according to the wholesome and unwholesome karma they have created. The Buddha said, beings are owners of their karma, heirs to their karma. Karma is the womb. Karma is the relative. Karma is the refuge. Thus, the true origin of humans, from the Buddhist view, lies in intentions and actions across innumerable past lives. This may sound implausible to someone accustomed to scientific thinking, but upon calm reflection, we find many phenomena not easily explained by evolution or creation. Why do some species, like sharks and crocodiles, persist for hundreds of millions of years with little apparent evolution? Why do monkeys, with genomes nearly 99% similar to humans, remain monkeys and do not take one more step to become human? Why are there species declared extinct that suddenly reappear? And most importantly, why are there children born with extraordinary talents or with vivid memories of previous lives? Buddhism holds that all these matters relate to karmic force. The material world changes with conditions, but the life of all beings is guided by the stream of rebirth consciousness. Humans exist here, but there are other realms alongside this one that the ordinary eye cannot see. Hells, hungry ghosts, asuras, and heavenly beings all arise due to karma and all exist simultaneously. Therefore, when we ask, where is the origin of humankind? From a Buddhist perspective, it is not merely a historical or scientific question, but a question about cause and effect, about karma, and about the spiritual nature of existence. This opening section is only a doorway to a deeper journey comparing the Buddhist view with theistic religion and with evolution, and to discerning a crucial practical meaning. Not where we come from, but how we are living now and where we will go after we leave this body. On the journey to seek the origin of humankind, the most readily visible are the creation doctrines of theistic religions. In the West, the most prominent are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In the Old Testament, the beginning is recounted clearly. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Then, gradually, he created sea and land, plants, animals, and finally the human atom from a handful of clay into which he breathed the breath of life. After that, from Adam's rib, he created Eve as his companion. All humankind is regarded as the descendants of this primal couple. This story, though simple, has left a profound imprint on human consciousness. It tells us that humans are born of an omnipotent being who has the power to give life and to take it away. Humans therefore bear the condition of creatures who must revere and obey the Creator. In Islam, the concept of Allah's creation of the universe is similar. These religions often teach that God not only created humans, but also bestowed upon them a purpose, to serve and worship Him and thereby attain salvation. In the East, Hinduism also has a creation concept. In the Vedic texts, humans are born from the body of the cosmic being Purusha. The limbs, head, and body of Purusha become the different social classes: Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Thus, from the very beginning, social stratification is held to be divinely ordained. A person born into a given class remains there permanently because it is the arrangement of the gods. In China, myth recounts that Nuwa molded human beings from yellow earth by the Yellow River. She shaped each person by hand, but exhausted, she dipped a rope into mud and flicked it. The droplets that fell became common folk. Hence people explained social inequality. The rich and noble were those Nuwa formed by hand, while the poor and lowly were the splattered droplets. This is how myth explains differences in fate. In general, creation accounts share several common features. There is a supernatural creator, God, a cosmic deity, Nuwa. Human beings are creatures who do not arise on their own, but depend on divine power. Social hierarchies are ordained from the beginning so that some are destined for wealth and others for poverty. This helps establish a powerful system of belief. People see their lives, whether suffering or happy, as the will of heaven and thus resist less and accept their fate. From that belief, society gains order, and kings and clergy can more easily govern the populace. Yet on closer examination, these creationist views present many problems. First, if all humans descend from Adam and Eve, why are there so many races, skin colors, and languages? Second, if God is omnipotent and wholly good, why did He create disease, war, and injustice? Why are some born blind or disabled while others are intelligent and gifted? If everything is the will of heaven, does that mean God plays favorites? Buddhism offers a completely different perspective. The Buddha did not deny the existence of heavenly realms or deities, but he affirmed that there is no omnipotent creator who made humans and all beings. All beings are born through the karmic force of their own actions. One who is born wealthy did so because in past lives they sowed the seeds of generosity, offerings, and merit. One who is born poor or ill did so because they previously created unwholesome karma, were stingy, killed, or harmed others. Nothing is random or heaven's decree. Everything follows the law of cause and effect. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha states very clearly, beings are the owners of their karma, the heirs to their karma. Karma is the womb. Karma is the kin, karma is the refuge. Whatever karma one has done, wholesome or unwholesome, one will inherit that karma. Thus, instead of a creator dispensing destinies, it is each person's past actions, speech, and thoughts that determine their present lot. This difference is crucial. It is why Buddhism never accepts caste as divinely ordained. In the Agana Sutta, the Buddha states plainly that Brahmins, Kshatriyas, or anyone else are all simply human beings. True nobility comes from virtue, moral conduct, and wisdom, not from bloodline or caste. This was a revolutionary view in the unjust society of ancient India. For example, under creationist doctrines, a child born into a low caste would remain lowly forever, unable to rise. In Buddhism, that child can practice, do good, keep precepts, and thereby plant wholesome seeds to be born into better conditions in a future life. This perspective opens the path of liberation to everyone, regardless of birth. Another difference lies in the purpose of life. Theistic religions often teach that humans live to serve God and to attain salvation after death. The Buddha teaches that humans live to transform suffering, end ignorance, and realize enlightenment and liberation. There is no God who rewards or punishes. One's wholesome or unwholesome karma determines where one will go, to heavenly realms, the human realm, or unfortunate destinies. Placing these two views side by side reveals a clear contrast. Theistic religion gives people a firm belief, but often leads to acceptance of fate and dependence on supernatural power. Buddhism gives people responsibility and freedom. Our suffering or happiness is of our own making, and only we can free ourselves. For this reason, throughout history, many who encountered the Dharma felt released from the shackles of fear of heaven's will. They understood that no invisible hand punishes them, only the workings of cause and effect. This is fair, reasonable, and motivating for living virtuously. From here we see that the Buddhist view of human origins does not stop at the question of who created us. More deeply, it asks what we are creating for ourselves and for future lives. This is the key distinction, which will be clarified further when we compare with science and the theory of evolution in the following sections. While theistic religions offer an answer through creation, modern science chooses another path, seeking human origins through fossils, genes, and biological evolution. In the history of science, the name Charles Darwin marks a turning point. In 1859, he published On the Origin of Species, presenting the theory of evolution by natural selection. From then on, the world began to view humans and all species differently. According to Darwin, all organisms developed from simpler forms over millions or even billions of years. Random genetic variations create small differences among individuals. Those with advantageous traits survive and pass those traits to their offspring. This process is called natural selection. Over long periods, new species appear, old ones vanish, and the living world becomes as diverse as we see today. Regarding humans, science holds that we did not appear suddenly, but gradually evolved from primates. Fossils show that our distant ancestors were hominins who lived in Africa millions of years ago. From Australopithecus to Homo habilis, then Homo erectus, and finally Homo sapiens, modern humans. The scientific evidence is abundant. Fossil skulls, traces of stone tools, ancient footprints, and especially genetic evidence. DNA analysis shows that humans share a common ancestor with chimpanzees and apes about 6 to 7 million years ago. Our DNA is 98 to 99% similar to that of chimpanzees. This explains why monkeys display behaviors close to humans, such as using tools, cooperating, and expressing emotions. Thanks to evolution, many questions have answers. Why do humans have 5 fingers? Why do whales retain vestigial hind limb bones? Why are there birds that cannot fly? All are traces of evolutionary history. Even medicine relies on this to understand human weaknesses. We are prone to back pain because we evolved from walking on 4 limbs to walking on 2, and we are prone to appendicitis because the appendix is a vestigial organ from the digestive system of herbivorous ancestors. However, the theory of evolution is not without gaps. First, it explains material change well, but has not explained the emergence of consciousness. How did an aggregate of cells come to have thought, emotion, morality, and religion? Second, evolution often speaks of gradual change, Yet Earth's geological history contains many gaps. Some species appear suddenly and vanish quickly, not following a smooth pattern. This is called punctuated equilibrium. Another issue is that if humans evolved from primates, why have the remaining primates not continued to evolve into humans? If natural selection is inevitable, one might expect all to move in the same direction. In reality, chimpanzees remain chimpanzees, monkeys remain monkeys. Only Homo sapiens survived and came to dominate. This question remains debated to this day. Moreover, there are organisms that have existed for hundreds of millions of years with little apparent change, such as sharks, crocodiles, and sea turtles. Science calls them living fossils. If evolution is an inevitable law, why do they remain almost unchanged? Is it because their environments are stable, or is there a deeper factor that science has not yet perceived? In addition, species occasionally declared extinct reappear. A classic example is the ancient coelacanth, once thought to have vanished 65 million years ago, yet unexpectedly found alive in the Indian Ocean in 1938. Or marsupials in Australia, and certain bird species believed lost for centuries, that one day suddenly show up again. This compels the scientific community to admit that our understanding remains very limited. The theory of evolution also struggles when it confronts the question of purpose. It can explain mechanisms of change, but it does not answer why life began or why the universe contains conditions suitable for life to develop. Many scientists acknowledge that although evolution is a powerful theory, it is not the final truth. It is only one way of explaining based on the evidence currently available. Compared with Buddhism, we find both overlaps and differences. The overlap lies in the fact that Buddhism also does not believe in an omnipotent creator. Both science and Buddhism reject the notion that humans were created once and forever. The difference is that science looks only at matter, while Buddhism looks at mind and karma. Science speaks of the randomness of genetic mutations. Buddhism speaks of the precision of karmic cause and effect. Science studies what can be seen through microscopes and telescopes. Buddhism aims at what is seen through meditative insight. For a familiar example, science can explain why a child carries a hereditary disease because of faulty DNA, but it cannot explain why another child, born healthy, suffers an accident early on or dies young. Buddhism says that past karma causes one person to enjoy blessings while another must endure suffering. Therefore, the theory of evolution gives us a rich biological picture, yet leaves many questions open. It explains form, but not consciousness. It tells us the human past, but does not point to where we will go in the future. This is precisely where Buddhism steps in to add a deeper dimension. A human being is not only the result of biological evolution, but also the result of spiritual evolution through countless lifetimes of rebirth. While creationism places its faith in a single beginning brought about by divine power, and evolution holds that life gradually develops from simple to complex forms, Buddhism views the universe and humankind in a completely different way. The Buddha taught that the world does not have only one beginning, nor a permanent end, but always operates in the cycle of formation, existence, decay, and emptiness. In other words, the universe resembles an endless cycle. When conditions are sufficient, a world is formed. It then endures for a long period, then gradually declines and dissolves. In the end, everything vanishes into boundless emptiness. Yet from that state of emptiness, new conditions arise, and another world is formed. This process continues without pause, with no absolute starting point and no permanent conclusion. Interestingly, when we observe nature, we find many things resonant with the Buddhist view. Some species have lived for millions of years with almost no evolution, such as sharks, turtles, and crocodiles. Could it be that the collective karma of those species holds their forms relatively unchanged? There are also species believed extinct that reappear, like the ancient coelacanth. This reminds us that life does not depend solely on the material environment, but also on the flow of karma. Another major difference is that science views evolution as one way, from simple to complex, from lower to higher, while Buddhism clearly sees rebirth as going up and down. A human may be reborn among devas, but may also fall into animal realms depending on karma. Nothing guarantees that humankind will always advance, because if we create unwholesome karma, we can fall into lower forms. This teaches us a lesson. True evolution does not lie in the body, but in the spirit. Biological evolution only changes our physical form, but the evolution of mind determines where we will go across countless lifetimes. One who keeps precepts, performs good deeds, cultivates meditation, and develops wisdom is truly evolving to escape the cycle of rebirth. The Buddha taught in the Dhammapada, not in the sky, not in the middle of the sea, not by entering a mountain cleft. Nowhere in the world can one escape the effect of an evil deed. This shows that karma is the red thread running through the existence of all beings, and it is the fundamental difference between Buddhism and other views on human origins. One intriguing question that modern science itself admits it has not fully answered is why certain organisms have existed for hundreds of millions of years, enduring countless geological and climatic upheavals, yet their morphology has changed little. These are called living fossils. They are like silent witnesses to Earth's history, existing from ancient times to the present day. Let us look at sharks. Scientists have discovered shark fossils dating back more than 400 million years. Even before the age of dinosaurs, sharks were already swimming in the oceans. Yet today, their form is almost the same. Razor-sharp teeth, a streamlined body, swift movement, always at the top of the food chain. Crocodiles, too, have existed for at least 200 million years, passing through global extinctions while their shape has changed little. Sea turtles, snakes, and octopuses likewise have retained nearly the same forms over hundreds of millions of years of evolution. If we follow the theory of evolution, they should gradually change with their environments. In reality, they are still there as an almost unchanging version of themselves. This has sparked much debate. Perhaps they are biologically perfect and need no further change, or perhaps there is some other factor at work. Buddhism views this from another angle. The Buddha taught that the existence of all beings depends not only on the material environment, but also on the collective karma of that species. That is, each species has a shared karmic force that gives rise to its form and way of life. As long as that karma has not run its course, the species continues to exist in its established form. For example, sharks have a predatory and fierce nature, living by killing in the deep sea. This is an expression of a shared karma, the karma of taking life. Generation after generation of sharks live in that way without changing their nature. Therefore, even as the earth changes, that collective karma preserves the species' form. Only when that karma is exhausted will the species disappear or be reborn in another form. This also explains why many ancient species still exist today. It is not because they are too strong or biologically perfect, but because their collective karma has not ended. Conversely, gigantic creatures like dinosaurs, seemingly invincible, vanished completely not only because of asteroids or climate, but more deeply because the shared karma of that species had reached its end. Another notable point is that some species vanish for tens of millions of years and then reappear, such as the coelacanth. Science once held that it had gone extinct 65 million years ago, yet in 1938 South African fishers caught a living specimen. For Buddhism, this is not surprising. If karmic conditions have not ended, the species cannot truly disappear. It may remain hidden beyond the scope of our observation and measurement, then re-emerge when conditions converge. This is similar to human beings. Some people bear very clear marks of past lives. A child who has never studied may be able to play an instrument, paint, or speak another language. Science calls this a strange phenomenon, but Buddhism sees it as the continuity of the stream of consciousness. Likewise, the presence or disappearance of a species is not merely random, but the continuation or cessation of karma. If we reflect, we will see that this perspective makes us more humble before nature. Science often assumes that life follows only biological laws, but Buddhism reminds us that life also follows the law of karma. Each species and each community is an assembly of countless beings with similar karma who gather together to form it. As long as their collective karma remains, the species persists despite the passage of time. This also carries practical meaning. When we see an animal, instead of viewing it merely as a product of evolution, we can see beings undergoing the results of karma. Sharks live to kill, bees to labor and make honey, birds to sing. All are guided by karma. If we understand this, compassion arises and we will not look down on any species, knowing they may once have been our parents or siblings in previous lives. A very moving example appears in the Sayukta Agama. A monk, while meditating, saw a fish trapped in a net, thrashing in pain. Using the divine eye, he observed that this fish had once been his mother in a distant life. The karmic result of killing had led her to be reborn as a fish and suffer. The monk wept, realizing that no living being is truly a stranger, that all are kin within the cycle of rebirth. Thus, from the Buddhist viewpoint, the question, why do some species endure so long with little apparent evolution, has a deeper answer. Because the collective karma of that species endures, its form does not change until conditions and karmic forces shift. This shows that life is shaped not only by the material environment, but also by invisible karmic forces. It also reminds humans that rather than arrogantly claiming to be the pinnacle of evolution, we should recognize that we too exist through karma and can change at any time. One of the most oft-repeated arguments in discussions of Darwin's theory of evolution concerns the relationship between humans and primates. Scientists have shown that human and chimpanzee DNA is 98 to 99% identical. Many primate species share behaviors, brain structures, and ways of life similar to humans. From this, science asserts that humans and monkeys share a distant common ancestor. At first hearing this seems reasonable, but many people wonder, if this is so, why after millions of years are monkeys still monkeys and apes still apes, taking no further step to become human? If evolution is an inevitable law, then all primates should gradually turn into Homo sapiens. In reality, this is not the case. Only one branch, Homo sapiens, survives and became modern humans, while other primates remained at their own level. Science has its explanations. It is said that humans were fortunate to have suitable genetic mutations and favorable environments that enabled extraordinary development. Other primate species lacked these conditions and thus remained unchanged. Yet this explanation still feels unsatisfying. If millions of years have passed, why did that good fortune occur only in one small branch, while the others experienced no comparable change? From the Buddhist perspective, this question can be approached differently. The Buddha taught that the difference between humans and animals lies not only in form, but, more importantly, in karma and consciousness. A being is reborn as human because it has accumulated sufficient wholesome karma, wisdom, and merit to attain a human body. Beings reborn as monkeys, apes, or chimpanzees do so due to different karmic forces and thus take those forms. In other words, genes do not determine everything. Karma determines one's form and realm of rebirth. It may happen that a monkey today, if it accumulates wholesome karma, can be reborn as a human in a future life. Conversely, a human who lives greedily, foolishly, and cruelly may be reborn as a monkey or other animal. This shows that monkeys and humans are not completely separate, but connected within the cycle of rebirth. The scriptures contain many stories of humans reborn as animals. In the Sayukta Agama, it is recorded that a monk, using the divine eye, saw a gibbon leaping among branches. Observing carefully, he realized that it had been another monk in a previous life who, because of violations and unwholesome karma, had fallen into rebirth as a gibbon. This story reminds us that the form of monkeys is not only the product of biological evolution, but also the karmic result of past deeds. An interesting fact is that if we observe the behavior of monkeys and apes, we find many human-like traits. They use branches to rake in food, wash fruit before eating, live in hierarchical groups, compete for power, even deceive and steal, and they also love and protect their young. We could say they are a mirror reflecting humanity, but lacking one crucial element: mindfulness and wisdom to transform karma themselves. This is precisely what keeps them at the level of monkeys, not evolving into humans. Science perceives biological closeness, but Buddhism emphasizes spiritual difference. Humans possess the capacity to develop wisdom, practice, realize enlightenment, and escape the cycle of birth and death. Monkeys do not yet have sufficient wholesome karma for that capacity. This is why monkeys have remained monkeys for millions of years. Understood in terms of karma, each species has its own karmic threshold. Humans share a collective karma for being human. Monkeys share a collective karma for being monkeys. Transition occurs only when karma changes. An individual monkey may become human in a future life, but an entire species of monkeys will not collectively become human. This is very different from science's linear view of evolution. This also explains why, in history, other human species once existed. Homo neanderthalensis, Neanderthals, Homo erectus, but then disappeared, while only Homo sapiens remains today. From a Buddhist perspective, this is because the collective karma of those species ended, whereas the collective karma of present-day humans continues. It is not randomness, but the operation of karma. Looking more deeply, the story of monkeys also mirrors humanity itself. If humans merely chase after the instincts of eating, competing, and indulging, they are no different from monkeys. Only when they practice, keep precepts, do good, and develop wisdom do humans truly live up to the rarely obtained human birth. Thus, in the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, "It is easy to live heedlessly, hard to live mindfully. One who is awake among the heedless is like the wakeful among those asleep." This means humans and monkeys are not so far apart, but wakefulness is the decisive boundary. In short, the question, why don't monkeys evolve into humans, is answered from the Buddhist viewpoint in two words: karmic force. It is not because monkeys are unlucky or lack genetic mutations, but because they do not yet have sufficient wholesome karma to be reborn as humans. Nor are humans inherently the highest, for if they create unwholesome karma, they can be reborn as monkeys or lower beings. This understanding makes us both humble and appreciative of the opportunity of human life, so that we live worthily. In the scientific world, there is a phenomenon that perplexes many researchers. Certain organisms long declared extinct suddenly reappear. This phenomenon is called Lazarus species, named after the biblical figure Lazarus, who was raised from the dead by Jesus. One of the most famous examples is the ancient fish coelacanth. According to the fossil record, this fish has existed for more than 360 million years, and it was believed to have gone extinct with the dinosaurs about 65 million years ago. But in the year 1938, a fisherman in South Africa accidentally caught a very strange fish. When scientists examined it, they were astonished to realize it was coelacanth, a fish thought to have vanished for tens of millions of years. Since then, many other coela have been found in the Indian Ocean. Another case is the horse crab. It has existed for more than 450 million years, even older than the dinosaurs, and has hardly changed in shape. It was once thought that at certain times it had disappeared, but it was later discovered in many seas. Astonishingly, the horseshoe crab's modern form is almost identical to its fossilized ancestors. Or take the takahe bird in New Zealand. In 188, the species was declared extinct because none could be found. But in the year 968, 50 years later, an expedition discovered a small population of takahe living in remote mountains. Their reappearance became a sensational scientific event. Examples like these show that human understanding of the natural world is still very limited. We may declare a species extinct simply because we have not found it within our narrow range of observation. In reality, it may still exist somewhere beyond human sight. What does this phenomenon mean from a Buddhist perspective? The Buddha taught that the existence of all beings is not only due to material conditions, but also to karmic conditions. A species' birth, existence, or disappearance is tied to the stream of collective karma of the beings within it. If that species' karmic conditions have not ended, it will continue to exist somewhere, whether humans see it or not. When conditions converge, it may appear again as if returning from the dead. In other words, what science calls extinction is only provisional. A species may no longer be present in one region, yet still survive elsewhere. Even if it disappears completely from the visible world, the stream of consciousness of those beings continues in other forms, perhaps as a new species or rebirth in another realm. Therefore, in Buddhism, there is no absolute death, only transformation from one state to another. Viewed through cause and effect, we can understand, when a species continues, it is because its collective karma continues. When it disappears, that karma has ended. But if conditions have not fully ceased, it may manifest again, sometimes right within the visible world, surprising humans, like the Coelican or the Takaha cases. This also reminds us of human life itself. Some people seem to die in suffering and illness, yet then revive as if reborn in this very life. Some pass away, but the marks they leave on their descendants and society continue. All of this is the operation of dependent origination. Nothing truly vanishes, it only shifts into another form. In the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha taught, like a seed sown in the earth, when water, light, and soil are sufficient, it will sprout. When conditions are absent, the seed dries up. But when conditions return, another seed will grow. All phenomena arise dependently. None are self-originated, and none are utterly lost. This applies to humans and to all beings. The phenomenon of extinct species reappearing reminds humanity that our knowledge, though advanced, remains limited. Science relies on observation and evidence, but what we cannot see does not mean it does not exist. Buddhism emphasizes that we should not cling to our limited perception, but understand that all phenomena are governed by causes, conditions, and karmic forces. Another practical implication is that, viewed through cause and effect, the disappearance or reappearance of a species is also a reminder of human responsibility. When humans destroy the environment and kill living beings, we are contributing to the severing of the life conditions of many species. But when we preserve and respect life, we are planting seeds that allow those species to continue existing. Thus, human karma affects not only ourselves, but also the lives of all other beings. From the Buddhist perspective, the reappearance of a species is not a miracle, but a demonstration of the law of dependent origination and karmic retribution. When causes and conditions are not exhausted, the species remains. When conditions come together, it will reappear, even if science has declared it extinct. Understanding this makes us more humble and respectful toward the wondrous workings of the world. When discussing the origin of humankind, science tends to focus on the body, bones, DNA, the nervous system, the brain. Researchers explain life through chemical reactions, genetic evolution, and the combination of cells. But looking deeper, we find something strange. The body is only the shell, not the whole human being. If existence were purely material, a human would be nothing more than a biological machine. So what makes us capable of joy and sorrow, love and sacrifice, the yearning to find meaning in life? Buddhism answers clearly. Humans are composed not only of the body, but of the 5 aggregates: skandhas, form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. Form, rupa, the physical body, flesh, bones, blood, DNA, cells. This is what science studies. Feeling, vedana, sensations, pleasure, pain, suffering, joy, neutrality. Perception, sana, recognition and awareness, the ability to distinguish images, sounds, and memories. Mental formations, sakra, mental activities, thoughts, intentions, volitions, and desires. Consciousness, via cognition, the spiritual mind stream that flows continuously from one life to another. Among these 5, consciousness is the core element, the unbroken stream connecting countless lifetimes. It is this consciousness that truly differentiates humans and is the aspect that science has yet to reach. A corpse, though physically intact, is no longer human because the stream of consciousness is gone. This shows that humans are not merely physical bodies. For example, a person in a deep coma, the body is intact, the heart still beats, the brain still functions, yet there is almost no awareness. Science calls this a vegetative state. Buddhism says that consciousness has temporarily withdrawn, leaving only karma sustaining life. When consciousness finally departs, that person dies. The mind stream leaves the body and takes rebirth elsewhere. In the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha said, "Bhikkhus, if consciousness did not enter the mother's womb, would name and form come to be?" The monks replied, "No, blessed one." The Buddha concluded that consciousness, the mind stream, makes life possible. A child is not formed merely from the father's sperm and the mother's egg, but also through karmic force that draws consciousness to enter. Thus, a human is a combination of body and mind, not just a collection of cells. Another phenomenon that science struggles to explain is cases of reincarnation or past life memories. Many children in India, Sri Lanka, in Myanmar have recounted details of previous lives, their names, families, hometowns, and even past events. Some cases have been verified, astonishing Western researchers. This provides evidence that humans do not vanish after death, but merely leave one body to continue living in another. A famous example is that of the Indian boy Shani Devi. From a young age, he insisted he did not belong to his current family, but had lived in another village, with a husband and children. When he was taken to that village, he recognized the house, relatives, and described precise details that no one else could know. This case was documented and became a serious topic of study. Such phenomena show that human life does not end at death. The body is temporary, but the mind stream continues endlessly. It carries wholesome or unwholesome karma that determines where we are reborn. Therefore, when discussing the origin of humankind, it is insufficient to look only at the body. We must also consider the mind and karma. This also explains why some children are born with extraordinary talents. A 3-year-old who plays piano masterfully, a 5-year-old who paints like an artist, or one who speaks a foreign language never learned. Science calls this innate genius, but Buddhism calls it past karma, the result of skill and cultivation accumulated over many lives. Conversely, there are children born with illness, disability, or misfortune. Science attributes this to genetics or prenatal complications. Buddhism does not deny these, but adds that it is the fruit of past karma. Perhaps the child once caused others suffering. This may sound harsh, but is, in fact, deeply fair. One reaps exactly what one has sown. No one is punished unjustly. A story in the Dhammapada tells of a child who died shortly after birth. The grieving mother asked the Buddha why her baby had to leave so soon. The Buddha gently replied, "Woman, that child in a previous life took another's life. The karma has not yet been exhausted. Now it was born only to repay the remaining debt. Understand that life does not end here. Your child's consciousness continues into another existence." That answer was both sorrowful and consoling. There is no absolute loss, only continuation. Reflecting on this, we see that this perspective makes people live more responsibly. If we think life happens only once, we may live carelessly, believing death is the end. But if we understand that consciousness continues, that today's actions become tomorrow's karma, we will be mindful of every word, thought, and deed. Thus, compared with science and the theory of evolution, Buddhism offers a more complete view. Science analyzes the body. Buddhism analyzes both mind and karma. Science can dissect the brain but cannot touch consciousness. Buddhism goes directly to the essence of consciousness, seeing it as the root of existence. And this is what makes the Buddhist explanation of human origins so profound. A human is not merely a physical body, but a combination of the 5 aggregates, with consciousness as the decisive element guiding us through countless cycles of rebirth. In theistic religions, humans are seen as creations of an almighty being. In the Bible, Adam and Eve were created by God, and from them came all of humanity. Similarly, in Hinduism, the god Purusha sacrificed himself, and his body became the universe, from which humans appeared and were divided into castes. In Chinese mythology, the goddess Nuwa molded humans from clay. These creation stories differ across cultures, but share a common theme. Life originates from the will and power of a divine being. In such a worldview, humans are mere creations. Their status, circumstances, and destiny are considered the will of heaven. A person born rich or poor, healthy or ill, intelligent or dull, everything is believed to be predetermined by divine will. This instills strong faith, but also fosters dependence and resignation to fate. In contrast, Buddhism offers an entirely different view. The Buddha taught that there is no almighty creator who made humans and all beings. Instead, all existence arises from karma and conditions. People are not born as servants of a god, but as inheritors of their own past actions across countless lifetimes. The Buddha declared, "Beings are the owners of their karma, heirs to their karma. Karma is the womb. Karma is the kin. Karma is the refuge." This point is revolutionary. Rather than surrendering one's life to divine will, Buddhism gives humans both responsibility and freedom. Each person is the architect of their own destiny. No one else determines it. Whether we are happy or miserable, rich or poor, noble or lowly, all are the results of what we have done in the past. And in the present, we can still plant new seeds to change the future. For example, in the creation doctrine, if a child is born blind, it is said to be the will of God. But Buddhism explains that the child, in a past life, might have blinded another or committed harmful deeds related to sight. Now, when the karmic fruit ripens, the child must suffer. This may sound harsh, but is profoundly fair. No one is punished without cause. Everything arises from one's own deeds. The story of Venerable Anuruddha, one of the Buddha's great disciples, illustrates this. In a past life, he was a poor man who offered a small oil lamp to the Buddha Kassapa. Because of his sincere devotion, his lamp burned bright and never went out. But in that same life, he once mocked and blinded a fish. As a result, in his final existence, Anuruddha was blessed with divine vision, able to see 1,000 leagues away, yet he also lost his physical sight near the end of his life. This story shows the perfect justice of karma. Humans are not rewarded or punished by gods, but by their own actions. Another major difference: the creation doctrine is often linked to social hierarchy. In Hinduism, the Brahmins are said to have been born from the mouth of Purusha and thus hold exalted status, while the Shudras, born from his feet, are forever lowly. Thus, caste is considered divinely ordained. But in the Buddhist text Agana Sutta, on the origin of the world, the Buddha refuted this view. He clearly stated that caste does not determine human worth. Virtue, conduct, and wisdom do. A Brahmin by birth who lives immorally is base, while one born in a humble class who keeps precepts, does good, and cultivates is noble. This liberated humanity from the chains of predestined fate. It shows that anyone can practice. Anyone can become a saint or enlightened being, regardless of bloodline or status. In Buddhist history, many disciples came from slavery or poverty, yet through cultivation attained arhathood and complete liberation, something impossible in theistic systems where status is fixed from birth. Another distinction lies in life's purpose. In the creation doctrine, humans are born to serve and worship the Creator, seeking salvation after death. In Buddhism, humans are born to learn the law of cause and effect, transform suffering, cultivate wisdom, and attain enlightenment. There is no one who grants blessings or imposes punishment. Each person determines their own path. This is true freedom, freedom from ignorance, not dependence on divine power. Imagine, if we believe fate is fixed, we easily accept suffering and dare not change. But if we understand that everything arises from cause and effect, we gain motivation to live virtuously and sow good seeds, knowing the future can be transformed through present actions. This is Buddhism's great advantage over the creation doctrine. Once, a Brahmin asked the Buddha, "Is it true that only those born in the Brahmin caste are noble, while others are lowly?" The Buddha smiled and replied, "Brahmin, tell me, if one born in a low caste keeps the precepts, practices generosity and compassion, would you call them lowly? And if one born a Brahmin commits deceit, cruelty, and murder, would you call them noble?" The Brahmin fell silent and bowed his head, admitting that only virtue determines human worth. Thus, we see the fundamental difference. The creation doctrine places humans in dependence, worshiping a creator and accepting predetermined fate. Buddhism places humans in self-mastery. We create our own karma. We decide our destiny. Creationism emphasizes divine power. Buddhism emphasizes the law of cause and effect. Therefore, Buddhism not only explains human origins, but also shows the path from samsaric suffering to nirvana. No one can walk it for us, and no one can punish us but our own karma. This difference makes the Buddhist view both just and liberating, giving hope and responsibility to all beings. While the contrast between Buddhism and creationism is obvious, one attributes life to a god, the other to karma and causes. The difference with the theory of evolution is subtler. In some respects, Buddhism and evolution do not conflict and can even complement each other. Yet, upon closer look, they follow entirely different directions. The theory of evolution says life changes through genetic mutation and natural selection. All species, including humans, evolved from simpler forms over hundreds of millions of years. Evolution describes a long process, matter as the foundation, change as the driving force, and chance as the origin. Buddhism takes the opposite view. The Buddha did not deny physical change. He saw clearly that the world is in constant flux, with nothing permanent. But he emphasized that the force of transformation lies not only in matter, but also in mind and karma. Mind drives karma. Karma leads to rebirth, and from that, form arises. The emergence of humans or any species is not random, but the inevitable result of causes and conditions and karmic force. Here we see two fundamental differences. Evolution rests on randomness. Buddhism rests on causality. Evolution holds that genetic mutations occur by chance, and the environment selects what survives. Buddhism says nothing is absolutely random. Everything arises from causes and conditions. A child born healthy or sick is not just a genetic accident, but also a karmic result. An animal's survival is not mere luck, but the fruition of its collective karma. Cause and effect operate with complete fairness. There is no coincidence. Evolution places matter as the foundation. Buddhism places mind as the foundation. According to Darwin, life began from a single cell and gradually evolved into many species. According to Buddhism, life begins from the stream of consciousness that has neither beginning nor end. Through countless lifetimes, matter is merely the shell, while mind is the root. When the mind carries certain karma, it will be reborn into a form corresponding to that karma. Thus, the body is only a vehicle. The mind is the true master. If we compare them closely, we find many intriguing points. Evolution claims that humans originated from primates. Buddhism does not deny this physical resemblance, but adds that a human today could be reborn as a monkey tomorrow if they create unwholesome karma. Hence, the similarity between humans and monkeys arises not only from genes, but also from the continuum of karmic rebirth. Evolution teaches that species unable to adapt will disappear. Buddhism also acknowledges this, but emphasizes that disappearance is the end of a collective karma, and that species may later reappear in different forms. That explains why certain species once thought extinct have resurfaced, as discussed earlier. Evolution explains the presence of vestigial organs, such as the appendix, body hair, or tailbone. Buddhism, however, sees them as traces of past karma, remnants from previous existences in other forms of life. Moreover, evolution views development as a one-way ascent, from simple to complex, from lower to higher. Buddhism, however, sees a cyclical process of rebirth, ascending and descending. A human can evolve into a saintly being, but can also regress into an animal if they commit evil deeds. Thus, existence is not a straight line, but a circle of cause and effect. This is a major distinction. A simple analogy helps illustrate this. Imagine a student. According to evolution, the student progresses from grade 1 to grade 12 and graduates. But in Buddhism, the student may advance, yet if they are lazy or cheat, they can be held back or even dropped to a lower level. Evolution only sees progress upward. Buddhism sees both rise and fall, depending on karma. This insight holds profound practical meaning. If we believe only in evolution, we might think humanity is the inevitable outcome of nature and will continue advancing. But Buddhism warns that nothing guarantees continual progress. If humans act immorally, they can regress into lower realms of existence. This serves as a vital reminder. Another distinction lies in consciousness. Evolution cannot explain how a biological machine develops emotions, compassion, or enlightenment. Buddhism asserts that consciousness is not a byproduct of matter, but the primary flow that exists without beginning. It is consciousness that creates the body, not the body that produces consciousness. This is a fundamental difference that modern science has yet to touch. However, it is important to note that Buddhism does not reject evolution. The Buddha taught that this body is formed by the aggregation of the four elements: earth, water, fire, and air. It arises through causes and conditions and ceases through causes and conditions. Therefore, physical transformation over millions of years accords with the principle of dependent origination. Buddhism simply goes further, adding that behind these changes lies the operation of karma and causation. One might say evolution explains the physical shell of life, while Buddhism reveals its spiritual core. Without both perspectives, we see only half the picture. Evolution is accurate at the biological level, but insufficient to answer why we exist, why we suffer, or why we experience happiness. Buddhism, however, answers these at the root. Everything stems from mind and karma. Thus, the difference between Buddhism and evolution is not contradiction, but depth of explanation. Science stops at the body. Buddhism delves into the mind. Science views life horizontally, from past to present, while Buddhism views it vertically, across infinite lifetimes. The harmony of these two perspectives offers a more complete understanding of humanity and our origins. One of the features that makes the Buddhist perspective on human origins unique is that the Buddha did not merely propose a theory. He directly experienced the workings of rebirth through meditation. This sets Buddhism apart from theistic doctrines based on faith and from evolution based on material observation. On the night of enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, the Buddha attained the three knowledges, three insights. Through the knowledge of past lives, Pubbinavasanasiddhya with Makrone, he saw countless previous existences of himself. Through the divine eye, Dibakaka with Makrone, he witnessed the rebirths of all beings according to their karma, wholesome and unwholesome. Through the knowledge of the destruction of defilements, Asavaki with Makrone, he eradicated ignorance and attained complete liberation from birth and death. Through the knowledge of past lives, he knew he had been reborn countless times, sometimes as a king, sometimes as an animal, sometimes as a celestial being, sometimes as a poor person. Through the divine eye, he saw beings dying in one place and being reborn in another, just as a person on a tall tower sees people entering and leaving a house. Some beings were reborn in heavenly realms due to good karma. Others fell into hellish states due to evil deeds. Everything followed the law of cause and effect with absolute precision. This shows that the Buddha did not speculate. He saw directly through transcendent wisdom. What science cannot yet perceive through microscopes or telescopes, the Buddha saw through meditative insight. This is the foundation for Buddhist teachings about the origin and existence of humanity. Not only the Buddha, but many of his disciples also attained these knowledges. For example, Venerable Moggallana, famous for his supernatural powers, could perceive other realms. In the Anguttara Nikaya, it is recorded that he once saw his own mother reborn as a hungry ghost, suffering from hunger and pain. When he offered her food, it turned to burning coal in her hands. Through the Buddha's blessing and his cultivation, she was eventually liberated. This story shows that the realms of existence are not imagination, but realities visible to those with deep meditative insight. In Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and Thailand, ancient Buddhist countries, many monks and practitioners have reported recalling past lives through deep meditation. Some remembered being born into poor families, working as hunters, or practicing in eras of previous Buddhas. These memories often coincided with historical evidence, astonishing Western scholars. Interestingly, even in the West, research on hypnotic regression or past life recall has documented cases of patients remembering previous existences. Some describe in detail their past lives, the way they died, or events from ancient times. Although not all can be verified, some cases match historical data so closely that science cannot dismiss them entirely. Such experiences help us see that human beings are not merely products of material evolution, but the result of an infinite stream of consciousness extending through countless lives. Every person today carries within them the imprints of hundreds or even thousands of past lives. This explains why some people are born with extraordinary inclinations, like a child who instinctively knows how to play an instrument, or another who, at the age of 5, paints like a master artist. Such talents are not accidental. They are the results of training and wholesome karma accumulated over many lifetimes. From a scientific point of view, these phenomena are difficult to explain, but from a Buddhist perspective, they make perfect sense. The continuous stream of consciousness carries habits, wisdom, and karmic seeds, both wholesome and unwholesome, which manifest again upon rebirth. It is like a seed buried in the earth. Though hidden, when the right conditions appear, it will sprout. Another important point: Meditative realization is not only about seeing past lives, but about understanding the nature of suffering within the cycle of rebirth. After seeing countless lifetimes of his own and the birth and death of all beings, the Buddha exclaimed, "This cycle of samsara is indeed long. I have been the father, mother, brother, and relative of all of you. There is no being who has not been my kin in this endless round of existence." From this realization arose his boundless compassion and the wish to help all beings escape the wheel of birth and death. Thus, meditative insight serves not only as evidence of rebirth, but also as motivation for living virtuously and cultivating wisdom. When one realizes that they have wandered through countless lifetimes, they no longer cling to this life as everything. When one knows that evil karma inevitably brings suffering, they become mindful of every small action. This makes the Buddhist view of human origin more authentic, not based merely on belief but on the direct experience of enlightened beings, grounded not only in theory but also in meditative realization. And this opens the path for everyone. Through diligent practice, cultivating concentration and insight, one can also perceive the nature of samsara firsthand rather than relying solely on hearsay. In summary, the great distinction of Buddhism from other doctrines lies in its capacity for direct verification. If creationism relies on revelation and evolution relies on fossils, then Buddhism relies on meditative wisdom. Therefore, when discussing the origin of humanity, Buddhism not only answers where did we come from, but also where have we been, where are we going, and how can we end this endless cycle of return. When science discusses the origin of humans, it focuses on the visible world, what can be measured through microscopes, telescopes, or modern instruments. But over 2,600 years ago, the Buddha taught that the universe consists not only of what is visible to the human eye. Beyond the human realm exist 5 other realms that coexist with it: hell, hungry ghosts, animals, asuras, titans, and celestial beings. These 6 realms together form the wheel of samsara. Humanity is just one realm among them, not the only one, nor the center. The hell realm is where beings experience the most severe suffering. It is not underground in a literal sense, but a spiritual dimension where evil deeds, such as killing, harming others, sexual misconduct, deceit, and extreme greed, ripen into intense pain. Scriptures describe infernos of fire, swords, and ice where beings suffer from the very karma they have created. Though it sounds mythical, it is a profound spiritual truth. Those who create heavy karma naturally attract a corresponding state of torment after death. The hungry ghost realm, preta, consists of beings tormented by endless hunger and thirst. In the Pettavatthu Sutta, the Buddha described ghosts with bellies as large as drums and throats as narrow as needles, able to see food yet never eat it. Some see water turn into pus and blood. Others wander in darkness, perpetually craving but never satisfied. This is the karmic result of greed, stinginess, and exploiting the suffering of others. The animal realm is easier to observe. It includes all sentient beings around us. They share the world with humans but suffer greatly, being hunted, beaten, or used as tools. This is the fruit of ignorance and heedlessness, living instinctively without moral or spiritual discipline. Seeing an ox plowing under the sun or a chicken about to be slaughtered reveals the pain of this realm. From the eye of wisdom, we can also see that these beings were once humans now paying their karmic debts. The Asura realm is an intermediate state, possessing power like celestial beings but consumed by anger and jealousy. Asuras are strong and warlike, constantly battling the gods. They are compared to powerful yet ambitious beings who can never cease their rivalry. Their existence results from karma of anger, envy, and constant conflict. The celestial realm is that of the gods, where beings enjoy blissful lives earned through good deeds and virtue in previous lives. They possess radiant bodies and live long, joyous existences. Yet, the Buddha reminded that even the heavenly realms are not ultimate liberation. When their merit is exhausted, these beings fall into lower realms, continuing the cycle of rebirth. Crucially, these realms are not mere imagination. The Buddha and many arahants witnessed them directly through the divine eye. The Anguttara Nikaya records that the Buddha once guided Venerable Moggallana to witness the heavenly and hell realms so he could recount them to humanity. Moggallana often saw hungry ghost realms and described them to his disciples. Today, many people who have had near-death experiences recount visions similar to those found in Buddhist scriptures. Some see radiant light and peaceful landscapes akin to heavenly realms. Others see fire, darkness, and screams resembling hell. Such experiences invite reflection. Perhaps what the Buddha taught was real, only that science has not yet developed the means to measure it. Understanding this reveals that the Buddhist perspective on human origin is not confined to the human world. Humanity is merely one stop in the vast cycle of rebirth. Before becoming human, one may have been an animal, a ghost, a being in hell, or a god. After death, one may again enter any of these realms, depending on karma. This understanding fosters humility. If we believe only in evolution, we may think humans are the pinnacle of nature. If we believe in creationism, we may think humans are the most noble creation of God. But from the Buddhist perspective, humans are simply one among 6 realms, neither highest nor lowest. The key question, therefore, is not where we are, but what we do to escape the cycle of birth and death. A practical lesson from this teaching: when we see a dog, a bird, a beggar, or a wealthy person, we should not despise or envy them. Perhaps in past lives, they were our parents, children, or siblings, and perhaps in future lives, we could become them. Understanding this, compassion arises naturally. We live kindly, without arrogance or hatred. The Buddha told his disciples, "In this long round of samsara, there is no being who has not been your kin." Meaning, every creature we meet has once been our family. How then could we harm, deceive, or exploit one another? Thus, the unseen worlds, hell, hungry ghosts, animals, asuras, and celestial beings, are not myths but real dimensions existing alongside the human realm. We do not see them, but that does not mean they do not exist. Like radio waves, though invisible, they can be heard when the receiver is tuned. Likewise, through meditation and the opening of the eye of wisdom, one can perceive them clearly. When we realize that we live amidst 6 realms, we learn to cherish the human life, live virtuously, and sow wholesome seeds to avoid suffering and advance toward liberation. When we observe the world around us, one thing becomes clear: every species shares common characteristics. Humans have 2 hands, 2 legs, the ability to speak, and the capacity to think. Birds have wings and feathers and possess the instinct to fly. Fish have gills and fins and live underwater. Clearly, there is a shared pattern governing each species. Yet, within every species, there are individual differences. Some people are intelligent while others are dull. Some live long, others die young. Among birds, some fly swiftly while others are crippled. Why do similarities exist within a species, and yet differences arise among individuals? Buddhism explains this through 2 key concepts: collective karma and individual karma. Collective karma refers to the shared karmic force created by many beings in the past that causes them to be reborn in the same environment and form of existence. For example, fish all have gills to breathe underwater because their collective karma led them to the aquatic realm. Birds have wings to fly because their collective karma caused them to be reborn in such forms. Humans possess intelligence and speech because of the collective karma accumulated by countless beings that resulted in human rebirth. Individual karma, on the other hand, belongs to each person and explains the differences among individuals within the same species. 2 humans may both be born as people, yet one is rich and healthy while the other is poor and sickly. This is due to individual karma. Among birds, one may live freely in the wild while another is trapped in a cage, again, due to individual karma. A simple analogy: everyone living in the same city shares the same environment, climate, and infrastructure. That is collective karma. But within that same city, some live in mansions while others dwell in shacks. That is individual karma. Thus, collective karma shapes the general conditions, while individual karma determines personal details. This also explains why all humans share similar traits: walking upright, speaking, thinking, which are results of collective human karma. Yet, within humanity, individuals differ greatly in intelligence, fortune, and suffering. These arise from individual karma. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha said, "Beings come together because of collective karma and differ because of individual karma." This profound truth reveals the perfect fairness of the law of cause and effect. Each person is influenced by the collective, yet remains responsible for their own deeds. Looking at nature, we can observe the same principle. A flock of birds flying south shares collective karma. But within that flock, some die in storms while others survive. That is individual karma. A species like sharks has existed for hundreds of millions of years due to collective karma maintaining its form. But among them, some are strong and live long while others are weak and die early. That too is individual karma. This concept also explains many social phenomena. Why do some nations endure wars and disasters while others enjoy peace? That is collective karma of the nation. Yet, within the same calamity, some perish while others survive. That is individual karma. From this, we understand that nothing happens by chance or injustice. Everything has its causes and conditions. One story from the scriptures illustrates this well. One day, as the Buddha and his disciples passed through a field, they saw farmers plowing. A disciple asked, "World-honored one, why must some toil so hard while others enjoy comfort without effort?" The Buddha replied, "That is due to collective and individual karma. Humanity's collective karma requires labor to obtain food. Yet, those who live comfortably now once practiced generosity and offered alms in past lives. Those who struggle in poverty were once stingy and greedy. Everything has a cause. Nothing is random." This teaching inspires an important attitude toward life. Do not resent heaven or blame others. If we are poor, it is the fruit of past stinginess. We can plant new seeds of generosity to change our future. If we are sick, it may be the result of past acts of harming others. We can cultivate compassion and refrain from killing to improve our destiny. Instead of complaining, we can actively transform our karma by planting wholesome causes. The distinction between collective and individual karma also nurtures compassion and understanding. When a community suffers disaster, we do not hastily judge them as evil, but recognize it as collective karma. When we see someone in pain, we do not condemn them as sinful, but understand that it is individual karma. Rather than blame, we cultivate empathy and help, knowing that we too could fall into the same situation in another life. This perspective also sheds light on the origin of humankind. Humans were not created by a deity nor merely evolved by chance. They are the result of the collective karma of countless beings who came together through shared causes and conditions. That collective karma shaped the human form with its common traits, while individual karma produced the endless diversity among people. Thus, Buddhism harmonizes the unity and variety of life. Through the lens of collective and individual karma, we see clearly that the origin of humanity is neither random nor divinely arranged, but the outcome of infinite causes and karmic forces, both shared and personal, operating together. Understanding this reveals the complete justice of karma and reminds us that we can shape our future by planting wholesome seeds today. Some may ask, what is the use of knowing where humans come from? Does it help us live better? It is a fair question. If one merely debates whether humans come from karma, evolution, or divine creation, it remains theoretical. What truly matters is how understanding human origin benefits our daily lives. From the Buddhist perspective, the answer is clear. Knowing where we come from teaches us responsibility, gratitude for the present, and guidance for the future. First, it helps us realize that life is not random. We are not here by accident, nor by anyone's gift, but as the result of our own past karma. Human birth is rare. The Buddha compared it to a blind turtle living at the bottom of the sea that surfaces once every 100 years. On the ocean floats a log with a small hole. The chance of the turtle's head fitting perfectly into that hole is smaller than the chance of being reborn as a human. Understanding this, we learn to cherish every breath and every day of life. Second, it helps us stop blaming fate. If we believe destiny is fixed, we give up easily. If we believe everything is random, we live carelessly. But if we believe in karma, we understand that wealth and poverty, health and illness, all arise from our own past actions. Most importantly, we can still create new causes now. Thus, we neither despair nor resent, but live proactively. For example, a person born into poverty, if they think it is divine will, they will resign themselves. If they think it is random, they may grow bitter. But if they understand it as the result of past stinginess, they will cultivate generosity, helping others to create merit for future wealth. This is the motivation to live virtuously instead of with resentment. Third, understanding human origins according to Buddhism helps us live with greater compassion. We come to realize that all beings have, at some point, been our parents, siblings, or relatives in countless past lives. The dog on the street, the chicken in the slaughterhouse, the fish in the market, perhaps in some former life, they once cradled us in their arms or nourished us as their own. With this understanding, cruelty gives way to empathy, and we naturally seek to reduce suffering for all living beings. This is the foundation of the Buddhist precept against killing. Fourth, it teaches us to live responsibly toward the environment and society. When we witness natural disasters, wars, or pandemics, we do not merely blame nature or others. We understand them as manifestations of collective karma. Humanity's greed, exploitation of nature, and destruction of life bring the karmic result of pollution and climate change. Humanity's anger and aggression bring the result of war and famine. Knowing this, we recognize that every small act, keeping precepts, cultivating compassion, protecting the environment, contributes to creating a new and better collective karma for the future. Fifth, it gives us unshakable faith in the justice of cause and effect. In life, we may see evil people prosper and good people suffer. The wicked may appear happy while the kind live in hardship. If we look only at one lifetime, we may doubt fairness. But seen across many lifetimes, it becomes clear. Those who are wealthy yet unkind now are reaping past merit that will eventually run out, and their unwholesome deeds will bring future suffering. Those who are kind but poor are repaying old debts, yet their present virtue will yield happiness later. No one escapes the law of karma. It is only a matter of time. This understanding fosters patience, resilience, and equanimity. Finally, understanding human origins through Buddhism directs us toward the path of liberation. If we believe only in evolution, we may assume humanity will endlessly progress, without recognizing the cyclical rise and fall of existence. If we believe only in divine creation, we remain forever dependent on a creator. But when we understand karma, we realize we have the power to end the cycle of birth and death ourselves by eliminating unwholesome actions, cultivating wisdom, and attaining nirvana. This is the ultimate evolution, to transcend karma, end rebirth, and experience everlasting peace. A moving story in the scriptures tells of King Pasenadi asking the Buddha, "World-honored one, why do some live long while others die young? Why are some healthy and others sick, some rich and others poor?" The Buddha replied, "All is due to karma. Those who refrain from killing live long, those who kill die young. Those who give generously are wealthy. Those who are stingy are poor. Those who show respect are reborn into noble families. Those who are arrogant are born into lowly ones." This teaching not only explains the differences among people, but also reveals how we can live to transform our future. Thus, the practical significance of understanding human origins through Buddhism is immense. It is not an abstract doctrine, but something deeply connected to our everyday lives. Every word, action, and thought we create is weaving the very origin of our future existence. When we truly recognize this, we live with mindfulness, responsibility, compassion, and a clear direction toward liberation.